Hope everyone had a great holiday season. That's Jason Jewell of Scout.com. I'm Jared Cohen. We are the Recruiting Roundup. We bring the latest in Arizona high school football recruiting year-round, and I should say the newly engaged Jason Jewell. It's good times in the Jewell household these days. Congratulations. Let's get into it. A lot of commitment news that happened over the last week, including a Christmas gift to Arizona State with not just one of the fastest guys in the state, but one of the fastest guys in the nation, Jason.
Yeah, you talking about speed? Paul Lucas is the guy in the state of Arizona, one of the fastest in the history. He committed to Arizona State on Christmas morning. And what Sun Devil fans can look forward to in Paul Lucas is obviously the speed, but offensive coordinators can use this guy in multiple ways. Obviously played running back at Mountain Point, but is a guy that maybe is a slot receiver because of his size. Also a dangerous return man. But I've watched him one time play cornerback, and I think that is also a position he could play at the next level.
You know, a lot of people say track guys trying to play football doesn't work out often just because they're fast, but this kid is a football player deep down.
Yeah, I thought that early, in his career when he was a sophomore, ran so fast, and then he just showed out as a junior in that big game against Bishop Gorman and had 150 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. To me, that proved and solidified that Lucas can play football at the Division I level.
So congratulations to Paul Lucas and Arizona State. Again, that commitment came down on Christmas. Another commitment that came down, wide receiver out at Hamilton, Brandon Krasilic.
Yeah, a good commitment, committed to Columbia, and I think they're getting a steal on this guy. He had a breakout senior year, caught over 50 balls, had 800 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns, but he's a do-it-all type player, was a good punter, was able to kick for the Huskies as well. A very good student, obviously with a 4.0 GPA, good player, good commitment, good get by Columbia.
Yeah, had a chance to interview Brandon this season, was very impressed by this kid. He should be on to great things over at Columbia. Now, Jason, as the recruiting season, the depth of it, the busy time of it continues to roll along. Let's take a look at this 2015 class. A lot of commitments have come down, but there's still a lot of great players remaining. We'll look at some of the top ones right now, starting with Cassius Pete, was once committed but reopened up his commitment about a month ago.
Yeah, if you're looking at the top uncommitted players in the state of Arizona, Cassius is definitely the top guy. He's a 4-star player by Scout.com, was early committed to UCLA, but I think it's really going to come down to Arizona State and Michigan State being in the mix for Cassius Pete, and UCLA is still in the mix as well. He said, though, even though he's not committed to them, that they're still in the mix. So I think it's going to be one of those 3 schools for Cassius.
In my opinion, the defensive player of the year was Boulder Creek's Ryan Parento, and he remains uncommitted.
Yeah, I think for him it's going to end up being either a Holy Cross because he's such a smart kid, or Wyoming has shown a lot of interest lately. I know he wants to play at the highest level, so if a bigger school comes in and offers, then I think he ends up taking that. Academics obviously very important for him. He's a 4.2 GPA. We talked about Krasilic being a smart kid, so is Parento. So I think as January rolls through and schools are starting to come through and start to recruit here and offer students, I think Parento is a guy that could end up having a handful more offers later.
Yeah, Parento, first team all-academic from us at Sports 360 AZ from this last season. Next player, his season ended a little bit earlier than many hoped because of a knee injury, but Cameron Johnson is still one of the top running backs in this class.
Yeah, hurt his knee, wasn't able to play in the state championship game, took a trip to Nevada. I don't think Nevada is still in the mix for him. His recruiting is very different for most of the kids in the state because most of the offers that he had coaching changes. He had an offer from Wisconsin. Obviously, Gary Anderson, leaves there. He had an offer from Colorado State, and McElwain left to Florida, and then UNLV was another offer that he had, and they have a new coach, and Bishop Gorman, former Bishop Gorman head coach Tony Sanchez is now at UNLV. So I think Johnson is just trying to figure out, are these schools going to honor his scholarship offer? So we'll find out more, I think, with Cameron in the month of January.
Another person similar to Cameron having a weird commitment going on right now, but this one's a little bit different with Terrence Johnson because basketball is also a factor in addition to football.
Yeah, he had the early offers from U of A and from San Diego State to play safety, but he has multiple Division I offers in basketball. I think he has better offers now in basketball, so I think hoops is the way he's going to end up going.
And finally, the last player we're going to spotlight, another Tucson player out of Saguaro, is Derek Hall.
One of my favorite players. I've talked about him so many times on the Roundup. He has multiple offers. I think it's going to come down to Wyoming and San Jose State, but NAU has done a very good job recruiting Derek, and if one of those 2 FBS schools drop off, I think the Lumberjacks could get a steal in Derek.
Corey Wilson and Brandon Leonard, 2 other players that we're keeping an eye on, are also undecided, but those are the players still remaining on the 2015 class. There's a lot of them, but those are some of the top that are still yet to make their next level decision. Finally, Jason, the last thing before we're done on this edition of the Roundup, some all-star games, all-American games going to be going down this week. Arizona players in the Under Armour game and the Semper Fidelis game. Talk about some of the players in it and what we can expect to see out of them going up against national competition this week.
Right. Our coverage at scout.com is going to be tremendous. We have multiple analysts out there, so if you guys are interested in that, check out scout.com for that. But you look at the Semper Fi game, has two very good players from Arizona, Caleb Pert, who we haven't talked about in a long time because he committed so early to Vanderbilt, but the Hamilton defensive end is just a pass rusher extraordinaire. I like what he's able to do on the defense side of the ball. Then you look at Pinnacle quarterback Brian Lewerke, also playing in that game. I'm hoping he does very well in front of our analysts to get that 4-star, and I think Michigan State is getting a good player in Lewerke. Then you look at the Under Armour game. We have 4 players from the state of Arizona playing in that. The top 2 in the state in Christian Kirk and Keenan Walker. Their ability is just tremendous. You know, Kirk being a 5-star guy committed to Texas A&M. Walker, one of the nastiest offensive linemen ever I've seen in the state of Arizona, committed to the U of A. Then we can't forget about the long snappers. Jordan Butler at Saguaro. He's playing in the Under Armour game, being one of the top snappers in the country. And then Paul Lucas, who we just talked about, is also playing in that game. And Coach Norris Vaughn is one of the coaches in that Under Armour game.
So we'll recap what's gone on in those All-American games, not just in the game itself, but the practices as well, because there's a lot of evaluation and scouting that goes on at that time as well, and we'll talk about that next week from Jason on the Roundup. Until then, that is Jason Jewell, the newly engaged Jason Jewell. I'm Jared Cohen. This has been the Recruiting Roundup on Sports360AZ.com, powered by Rock and Refuel Varsity.